Dolores Malaguzzi, founder of the Reggio Emilia approach, said, "Space has to be a sort of aquarium that mirrors the ideas, values, attitudes, and culture of the people who live within it." In this video, we will take a peek into some of the pre-K classrooms in Manatee County to appreciate the planning required when establishing a classroom learning environment for our 3- and 4-year-olds. Research shows us that a positive learning environment leads to optimum learning. If we take time to build a space that reflects the children who are in the room, these children will develop a sense of belonging and higher attendance rates will follow. Anita Olds explains that when children feel comfortable in their physical surroundings, they will venture to explore materials or events around them. Therefore, it is our goal and vision to develop pre-K classrooms in our district that describe classroom environments as a learning environment that serves as the third teacher, a space that creates a sense of belonging, a flexible space with open-ended materials, a space filled with natural materials that engage the senses, and an environment that sparks wonder and curiosity through play. Every environment implies a set of values or beliefs about the people who use a space and the activities that take place there. In early learning, the child is viewed as a capable learner, deserving of respect, and their thinking is to be marveled at. Children deserve a space to learn and grow under this set of beliefs and values. Let's take a moment to explore what each of these beliefs means for the physical space and what that tells us about what we value in our early learning classrooms.
A learning environment that serves as the third teacher. The first goal is to create a learning environment that serves as the third teacher. Dolores Malaguzzi said, "There are 3 teachers of children: adults, other children, and their physical environment. The environment is the third teacher. The environment should support the work and interest of the children without constant adult guidance and intervention. The children work in the spaces, and while the adults are present, the children build their stories there. The environment is set up with enough provocation to fuel the children's words and minds. The goal is to have the background fade away so the children's achievements can be the foreground. The children's photos, documentation, and work become the color in the room." Documentation is a type of formative assessment that is powerful for teacher and student reflection and learning. Documentation includes displays of photographs, student dictation, and student work samples that show the evolution of thinking.
I think it's so important to document the children's work around the room so that they're constantly reminded of what they've done, so that we can always go back and reflect on what they've said, what they've done, their experiences, and it's not forgotten about. It's always there. We come in the classroom, it's all around us, so we can always go back to it. I chose to hang the student work over commercial products because it means more to them, it's more personable. They can connect to it better. So my beliefs and value in the children, with all of their work displayed across the room, is just that they're very capable of more than they're given credit. They are sponges. They learn the vocabulary, within weeks of teaching it. They're responsible for using that vocabulary through their exploration throughout the room and then the campus. And it goes back to just being personable. It was them. They experienced it, not some stranger, not a picture of someone they don't know. They've experienced it. They've done it.
A space that creates a sense of belonging. A central goal of the Early Learning Department is on strengthening the connection between the children, their families, and the school environment, rather than emphasizing separation from them during the long days children spend with us. Recent research on young children's development shows that children grow and learn best in the context of relationships with the people and places that reflect their families, cultures, and communities. Research on brain development also suggests that children must feel comfortable and secure for healthy development and learning. We need to create spaces that say to the adults and the children, "This is a place for you too."
When the parents come into the room, the children are able to show their mom and dad, this is my area, and the parents know right away that the child feels that sense of belonging because they're able to point it out. They're not looking for teacher direction.
If we want to have an environment that children interact with and that celebrates their work, then the children should be involved in creating the space as a way of recording and documenting their learning. Print is also a meaningful part of the pre-kindergarten environment. The environment should be filled with children's names, labels, signs, books that are co-constructed with students to build their print knowledge.
I chose to use names and pictures when designing my classroom space to help the child feel like this was their classroom. When they came in, it wasn't Miss Angela's classroom, it's our classroom. And it develops a sense of community within the kids because they see their names, they see their faces everywhere, and it becomes theirs.
A flexible space with open-ended materials. Our third goal is to create a flexible space filled with open-ended materials. Leila Gandini states, in order to act as an educator for the child, the environment has to be flexible. It must undergo frequent modification by the children and the teachers in order to remain up-to-date and responsive to their needs, to be protagonists in constructing their knowledge. Gandini suggests that creating flexible environments that are responsive to the needs of children are a way to construct knowledge together. Flexibility means that spaces are dedicated to overarching learning goals and standards, while the materials within are ever-changing.
So I took my idea from my student Antonio, and we put the fossil table together, and thinking with the standards in mind, how to bring tools into that. And so we looked around the room, and some kids, we got together and we said, what are some things that we need for the fossil table? And we went back to that, we need the brushes. So we looked in the cabinets for, paint brushes. Out of the blue, a pair of tweezers was in there. So they knew that from science area, they could bring tweezers over. And it got into talking about our senses and the touching and the sand and how it felt. So the whole fossil table, that one simple thing, very inexpensive, hit all my standards, became a third teacher in the classroom, and the kids are totally excited to explore more into fossils.
In order to support our teachers in designing their flexible space, as well as the implementation of the Manatee County School District pre-K curriculum, the Early Learning Department provided rich resources and open-ended materials for each of the 4 units of inquiry. With these provided materials, children will be able to explore and investigate scientific concepts related to living things, water, building and structures, and light and shadows. The areas and materials selected for our pre-K classrooms are open-ended, so children can respond in as many ways as possible according to their interests, strengths, and the children they are playing with. It is important to continue to gather and incorporate open-ended materials and loose parts into our classrooms, so children are invited to engage their imaginations, see themselves as inventors, and move towards more complex and challenging endeavors. Therefore, an emphasis on the evolving classroom with flexibility based on student and community influences is the third goal in creating an optimal learning environment for our pre-K children.
So I value the students' ideas so much that at first it was difficult for me to allow the kids to come up with the ideas. It's hard to plan lessons when the kids are constantly changing the ideas, but going with their ideas and their questions and their curiosity, it makes the room more exciting. And teaching for me has been less stressful and more exciting because I'm following the lead of the students.
A space filled with natural materials that engage the senses. Our fourth goal is to create a space filled with natural materials. The truth is that color affects mood, and bright primary colors create a lot of visual stimulation. Dr. Anita Olds, a leading expert on early childhood classroom design, explains that the presence of too much bright color in a classroom environment can have negative effects, making some children overstimulated, agitated, and exhausted. Natural colors promote relaxation, calm, and children learn best in a relaxed environment. Since children have a physical reaction to specific colors, this needs to be considered when creating a space. What we are striving to see is more of a neutral environment background-wise, so the children's work goes center stage. It is important to surround children with materials from nature to strengthen a connection to the natural world. Materials found in nature offer many opportunities for exploration and in-depth investigation. Providing natural materials into the classroom environment allows students to learn about themselves through their senses and their role using physical properties of the world. Children are transfixed by observing, smelling, touching, tasting, and moving and rearranging things. These experiences are vital to young children and create brain pathways that will be the foundation for a lifetime of exploring and learning.
I designed the Science Center in my room, one, from my love of science. As a child, I never had that stuff in my classrooms. I was never able to get dirty and explore. And the children just learn and they remember so much when they're hands-on, and the snake skin and the books and the tools, and they get to touch it and they're not getting in trouble and they can explore, and it just leads to more project work, it leads to more topics, and it's just an ongoing thing all year that changes. It constantly changes. That when we get into plants and roots, the table will be full of plants and roots from outside, and it's exciting, and the kids change it. They ultimately become responsible for the science area. The natural materials in the Science Center tie again into the standards with the 5 senses. We just learned about that last week, and already the conversations throughout the classroom are about that I can see it, I can hear it, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can smell it. So that's just from the science table using the senses. They take that and they connect it to their whole environment at school, when they go to the playground, when they're in block center, when they're in writing center. So just from the Science Center and how much we've talked about the senses, they're connecting it to their world.
An environment that sparks wonder and curiosity through play. The 5th goal is to create environments that spark wonder and curiosity through play. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, play is essential to development because it contributes to the cognitive, physical, social, and emotional well-being of children. Play is so important to child development that it has been recognized by the United Nations as a basic human right for every child. Exploration and play during the pre-kindergarten years and beyond turns us into adults who are flexible and sophisticated thinkers. Therefore, our classroom environments need to be set up as a provocation, which will encourage children to come forward with ideas and to look for things to investigate and create. By eliminating commercial figures and instead set up environments with everyday objects, it respects the children's innate eagerness to explore, inquire, and make meaning of what is around them. Teachers can set up environments that encourage this natural tendency to investigate and theorize about things that provoke a sense of magic and wonder.
Areas that the children can play in are important to have in the classroom because it's not play to them, it's work. It's hard work sharing. And that's one of the biggest skills I see learned in my center activities, are they're learning to work together. And that is a skill we need as adults. The language is amazing. I get more language out of them going into their play environments than them sitting on my carpet listening to me.
One key element we would like you to take from this video is the understanding of how the physical environment that we set up for our children connects with their underpinning educational philosophy, because the way a space is physically set up says a lot to children about what interactions and behaviors are welcome there. It is our goal to create classroom spaces in our district schools where we see vibrant examples of learning environments that dazzle our senses, invite curiosity and discovery, and most importantly, foster strong, respectful relationships. In order to accomplish the vision of our early learning classrooms, we must reflect and identify the values we want to see represented in our physical spaces. We must ask ourselves, what values do we want to communicate through our environments, and how we want children to experience their time in our programs? Walk down the halls and into the classrooms of your school or program. What does this environment teach those who are in it? How is it shaping the identity of those who spend long days there? When teachers and parents find themselves in environments that are beautiful, soothing, full of wonder and discovery, they feel intrigued, respected, and eager to spend their days living and learning in this place. Aren't these the very feelings we want the children to have?